What is going on, guys? DBG here, and this is episode 4 of NBA 2K17 Downgrades, where I predict which players' overalls will go down from NBA 2K16 to NBA 2K17. I've done 3 more of these episodes, so if a player you think should be downgraded isn't on this list, there's a good chance they are in one of the other 3 episodes. There will be a playlist in the description. And first, we have got Wesley Matthews, who was actually one of the better 2 guys in the league, was one of the better role players in the league before going to the Dallas Mavericks. Last season, he did start all 78 games, but he averaged his lowest points total since his rookie year at 12.5 points per game, averaging 3 rebounds, less than 2 assists and a steal a game. He also only shot 38% from the field and 36% from 3. So overall, Wesley Matthews had arguably his worst year as a pro. The Dallas Mavericks are thinking, why the fuck did we give this guy so much money? But anyway, well, in the grand scheme of things, he didn't have a bad year. He just had a bad year by his standards. So I think he's going to be downgraded to a 77 overall, a downgrade of 4 from last year, which I think is fair because even though he did average a decent amount of points, the Dallas Mavericks were a decent team, he did only shoot 38% and in general just had one of his worst years as a pro. Next we have got Collin Sexton, who was an exceptional player in Duke and was also a very decent role player for the Detroit Pistons. Collin Sexton started off as a 71 overall, but previous couple of years he'd been rated a lot higher because he was actually did really well for the Detroit Pistons. His first 3 seasons he'd averaged 8.8, 9.6 and 7.1 points per game before he was traded, and it was as if as soon as he went to Oklahoma he forgot how to play basketball. His percentages dropped a lot. He went from averaging over 7 points to averaging just over 3 points, and last season he averaged 3.4 points per game, less than a half a steal, 2 rebounds, while shooting barely over 30% from 3 and 38% from the field, which is insane because he's considered a 3-point shooter. Well, he was. I don't know what happened to Collin Sexton. Maybe he'll get better, maybe he just needs to get out of Oklahoma City, but I have no idea what actually happened to this guy because he was a great role player for the Detroit Pistons. I think he's going to be downgraded to a 67 overall, which to be honest, based on last season, is a little bit high. I think he's going to be rated that just because of how good he'd been in previous years, but if you're based on last season, 67 overall is way too high for Collin Sexton. Next up, we've got a player I don't really want to be downgraded because he's one of my favourite players, and it's Tony Parker. While Tony Parker, he did have a decent year. He shot nearly 50% from the field and was starting point guard for the San Antonio Spurs team, who won 67 games. The thing is, each year his role becomes less and less. Tony Parker is still a good point guard. He's still a very good point guard. His role is just becoming less and less with the Spurs as he's getting older, but he did only average 11.9 points per game, his second least in his career. He averaged 5.3 assists, but he actually shot 41% from 3, which is not bad. So Tony Parker's actually become a decent 3-point shooter, even though he doesn't shoot that many when he's left opening and hit them. But I think Tony Parker's going to be downgraded to an 80 overall. I think downgrading to a silver is a bit harsh because when he was on the court he was not bad, he just had a diminished role. But I still think Tony Parker, while right now not top 5 point guard in the NBA, is still a solid point guard. So I think an 80 overall is fair for him, keeping him as a gold but at the very kind of bottom end of the golds. His dynamic will drop straight away, so I wouldn't buy it if I were you. Next we have got Kevin Love, who, Jesus, he was one of the most frustrating players to watch in the finals. Kevin Love averaged less than 10 rebounds per game, 16 points per game, less than a half a block, less than a steal, 2 assists a game. Kevin Love was supposed to be one of the main reasons the Cavaliers won, not just another player on the winning team. Kevin Love was not bad. He was probably the 3rd best player on the Cavaliers, but they were not a big 3. They were a big 2. So Kevin Love really has not been good in Cleveland. He didn't adjust the way Chris Bosh did to that 3rd wheel role, and Kevin Love, to be honest, maybe he was just a big fish in a small pond at Minnesota. Who knows? But anyway, I think he's going to be downgraded to an 82 overall. I can't see him going any lower just because he did win a ring, and to be honest, it wasn't for a lack of trying. He still played well in a lot of big games. He didn't have the best finals. Richard Jefferson kind of outshone him when he started, but you can't blame a lack of effort for Kevin Love's poor performances. So anyway, I think an 82 overall is fair for him. A 2 downgrade from last year, and it's not too low because, like, While he didn't play as well as people expected him to, he still had a decent year. And last, we have got one of my least favourite players, and I'm not going to explain it in a different video. It is Blake Griffin. Last year, he only played in 35 games. He got injured, then he punched one of his friends, broke his hand, got injured, came back, got banned, and then got injured in the playoffs. So yeah, not a good year health-wise for Blake Griffin. He only averaged 21.4 points per game, which by his standards is not great. He averaged 8.4 rebounds per game, so the days of him averaging 12 rebounds a game in his rookie year are gone. He did shoot 33% from 3, which is not too bad. And for the first year in his career, he shot less than 50% from the field. Blake Griffin had a decent year. He had a Blake Griffin year. But because of all the off-the-court things, the injuries, I think he's going to be downgraded to an 86 overall. While it was not a bad year, I think it was one of his weaker years as a pro when he was on the floor. So that's why I think he deserves a little bit of a downgrade. But I think obviously he can't go lower than 86 because he still is Blake Griffin. But I think that with everything that happened, an 86 overall is fair, and there's a good chance that if he does play like he can play, his dynamic will definitely go up, and it'll go up quick. So anyway, that's the video. These are just 5 players I think are going to be downgraded from NBA 2K16 to NBA 2K17. As I said at the start, I'll have a playlist of upgrades and downgrades. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.